to XFM. It's John Kennedy, and I have Thom Yorke here with me this evening. Hello, Thom.
What's up, John?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah.
You're a busy man. Thanks so much for finding a little spot in your schedule to come in and talk to us. I've just played the Eraser, the title track of the album, which came out recently, and there's so much to talk about, really.
Is there?
Yeah, well, I think there is. Congratulations on being nominated for a Mercury Music Prize for the album. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we have been nominated. The band's been nominated a few times, but I think any attention at all on this record was much appreciated, really, considering how random the whole process was. So, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I first heard about a solo record coming out, and it seemed as if the preamble towards it was like, this isn't a solo record, this just happens to be some recordings that I've made.
It's just some stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So it's garnered kind of a bit more of attention than maybe you wanted, or is that not the case?
No, I mean, Nigel and I worked hard on it. The sort of whole solo, not solo thing was really based around the fact that it was done in the context of still being in Radiohead and years of sort of build-up of bits and pieces that had never made it into Radiohead things and sort of morphing into something else, really. And without the Radiohead thing, then this wouldn't exist. So it was difficult, just say, I'm going to go out of my own and create, screw a lot of you. Would have not been appropriate, really, because that's not how it was.
Yeah, but I mean, you're all making different music at different times, be it together or with other people or experimenting. And Johnny released the soundtrack album last year, and
which was it? So the Body song, was that last year or the year before?
Was it last year or the year before?
Year before, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So he did it. So I thought, right, I'm gonna have a go.
And would these songs possibly have ended up as Radiohead songs if you hadn't done this, or would they always have existed as a sideline?
There was a weird sort of particular moment where I realised there were songs. When I suddenly sort of started to think, the songs. But that was okay. That went away because really the whole point was me and Nigel had chosen to sit down and do this particular project, and it had sort of bookends to it, and it was a limited amount of thing, and it was quite good to say at this particular moment I'm doing this and that's that, and when I'm finished then I will go and do this. So whatever have the fact that they are songs, I was worried that because they were songs I should do them Radiohead, which seems a bit silly because I'm a singer and I sing songs. So if I'm going to do a record, I'll probably end up singing on it. You know. Does that make any sense to you at all?
I think it does. I can get some kind of sense out of that.
You might have to chop that up a bit.
We don't need
to chop
it
beginning.
Up. We want the whole Thom. We don't want little bits of Thom. We want the whole thing. So did you just stumble into this project then? Because that's the way you seem to be talking about it. That you just kind of thought, oh, I've got some songs. I didn't realise.
Stumbled out of it.
Stumbled out of it. Okay.
It was. We talked about doing it and talked to the band saying, is this okay? And they said yes. So it was something that was hanging around that I wanted to do, I guess. And it was, you end up with a lot of stray ends that are not going to end up in the Radiohead camp, because it's just no way. Well, at the time, and especially, you think, well, there's just no way this is going to work. So. There was just a build-up of that, really, and going through it, you just sort of, something starts to form together, really. But the interesting thing about that as well is that I think ultimately it's not a good idea to make those decisions a lot, because you think, oh, well, this is not appropriate for the band and this is, because you get into that weird zone, we've been talking about this, where that's assuming that Radiohead is a certain thing. It is a rock band, it is a live performance band, or and I think some of the best stuff we've done is when you get into that tension between that and program stuff and electronics and Johnny's orchestration and all that sort of thing. And so the fact that Johnny had gone and done sort of orchestral stuff and all that and his body song thing, and the fact that I've done this, is like what we're really talking about now is like, okay, taking all that energy and frustrations over the years that we suddenly sort of like, well, we have to go off and do something else. It's actually bringing those frustrations back into the Radiohead thing and forcing it back into that, because otherwise it is going to become a peculiar situation where, oh, well, that's obviously not a Radiohead thing, and that is, and I think that's kind of rubbish. A frustration of a particular format, you know, of being within a 6-album record deal, and you are producing a Radiohead album, and you will have to talk endlessly about it for 6, 7, 10 months, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we're not in that zone anymore. It's kind of it's like quite an interesting position, really, because I don't think we've ever really sort of thought we are just a rock band. But having done this, I sort of don't feel in any way trapped by the sort of Radiohead thing anymore, which I think is to the benefit of everybody, to be honest. I hope so anyway, but it doesn't mean I'm intending to dash off and do another one straight away, because that doesn't feel right at all. Yeah,
and it kind of skirts around a few different things that Radiohead are facing in a way. I mean, this record has come out on XL, and that's one deal, a one-off deal, I think, just for that release. Radiohead are in a position where you can do whatever you like now, in that you're not tied to a particular record company or anything like that. Is that a liberating experience at the moment for you? Or
it depends on who you talk to. I mean, I think Johnny Johnny especially, like when the deal was up and all that, and we were sitting around talking about it, I think he definitely was of the opinion that we should have some sort of whip being cracked over us, otherwise we'd never get it together. And initially I didn't agree, but I can kind of see what he means, because it's 5 people, you've got to get everyone to focus in a certain way and blah blah blah, which is why in a lot of ways one of the reasons we decided to do a bit of playing live and stuff was just like, okay, we need to get some focus going on it. But I mean, I think it's going a bit too far the other way to go back to the old record deal system, like one-off deals, and you know, when one has a record that makes sense to bring it out, that's a good thing. I think it's a weird situation. It kind of blew our minds a little bit for a while, because we were just used to having something to kick against, and suddenly, well, especially me, I have to have something to kick against, even if it's the wall. And then suddenly it's not there, so that's a bit weird.
So it's a big change in a way. Well, I'll come back to Radiohead, I suspect, a bit later on. But we are here also to talk about you, Thom, because you have this album, The Eraser, out.
I do.
And I'm going to play another track from it, which was the first track I played from the album on the show. It's called And It Rained All Night, and it's possibly my favourite on the album. What can you tell us about the song? Because it seems to paint quite a picture.
It was originally done in New York. The original riff and stuff was all a sleepless night in New York, mutating lots of bits and pieces into the sound that starts it off. And then I had this long extended ramble poem thing that I sometimes write like that, and it seemed to fit very quickly into the groove that I'd done, which I was very surprised. It's one of those peculiar things where the vocal you hear is I think the only vocal I did. I only did one take, and I was going through the whole thing thinking, oh, this doesn't work, this definitely doesn't work, and got a little woohoo at the end from Nigel. So it's, you know, because it's almost like a rap, but not really. I mean, it's a melody, but I just didn't expect it to work at all. But it's we did it. The other thing what's the other thing to say? It was full moon when we did it, which is always a good time for me. We did it in the middle of nowhere. I've got one of those big, enormous telescopes where you can look at the moon. You know, we had that set up. So we go and do a bit, and then we go and look at the moon, and then we go and do a bit. And we're there till the morning, I think, till about 6 in the morning.
Wow, just working on this one track.
Yeah, it was such fun. It was brilliant.
Wow, well, the results speak for themselves. This is it, Thom Yorke, And It Rained All Night on Exposure, XFM. That is Thom Yorke, And It Rained All Night on Exposure, XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and that's taken from the album The Eraser, which is out now on XL Records, and Thom Yorke is my special guest tonight.
Hey, John.
And we've got live session music from you, which you've just recorded a few minutes ago here in the studios of XFM. And I'm going to tease people a little and play that towards the end of your time with us. In the meantime, I thought we'd have a selection from you, because I'm intrigued to know kind of what input other things had on the album, particularly other musics, because I know you're somebody who seems to have a great appetite for various different styles of music, and I love the way it comes out both in obviously this album and also Radiohead's work. And what kind of things had you been listening to around the time of writing some of these songs?
God, I mean, they were over quite a few years, these songs, so it's quite difficult to say, oh, it was this and this and this. I mean, looking at because what I've done is today I knocked a CD up of things that I'm really excited about at the moment.
Okay.
Which is kind of not the same thing, although actually Mode Selector in particular has been a big influence on me, although I'm sure they would find that hilarious if they knew that. And they're from Berlin, you know.
What's the name of the group?
They're called Mode Selector. They're not,
Right.
I don't know, they're a really group. I'm not even sure if it's one or two people. I'm pretty sure it's two, and they're on beat pitch control.
Yeah.
They're just like they're to me they're one of the best of a particular thing by a long way. There's one track I brought in today called Silicon, which is off a record they've just done recently. Which it's got this sort of cut-up vocal thing, and it's just if I was in a club right now, that's the thing I would want to hear. But it's one of those tunes. They cut up things in a very raw, simple way, and it's very, very effective, and it reminds me a lot of old school stuff that I used to understand, and I got out of touch as usual. So yeah, we can start with that if you want.
Yeah, let's hear it. This is Mode Selector. That is Mode Selector, chosen and brought in by Thom Yorke, who is my guest tonight. You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM, and you'll find that on the B-Pitch Control label.
Well done, that's right.
Label.
That's right.
A fine label, but I don't know that, so I'm going to have to track it down myself.
They did an album last year. I think it was last year. Yeah.
And so when you've been working on solo material, in terms of sketching down ideas, you did that at home? Have you got a little kind of portable studio set
I
up?
have a home system and a portable system. It's nothing flashy at all. It's just the basics, because you actually don't need much. Although saying that, in some ways the most exciting thing was mixing that up with live bass and appalling drumming and bits of vocals and piano. A lot of sketches were done at the Radiohead studio with Graham, who's sort of like our in-house engineer, who spent hours like gearing up all my computers and then patiently watching me mess around for weeks on it. Poor chap. And then a lot of it was gleaned from bits of laptop stuff over the years. I don't know, it was this weird thing where I just basically had to go through. I had stuff everywhere and all different computers and discs, and drove Graham crazy trying to put it all into one place for when Nigel turned up, and then we went through it all. But even then it was very much just the absolute basics of things, and a lot of it I was writing on the hoof, basically, really. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to play another selection from the album in just a moment. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more from Thom Yorke after this. You're listening to XFM. It is John Kennedy and Exposure with XFM Scotland, XFM Manchester and XFM London united for a very special occasion, because Thom Yorke is my guest, and that was Thom Yorke, Harrowdown Hill, the single which is out this week, taken from the album The Eraser. And you're talking about live bass. That's live bass.
Yeah, that was live bass.
It's quite a kind of funky bass line at the beginning of that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Which I like. But the subject matter of the song seems to be in marked contrast in that. I mean, a lot of people seem to have been talking about the album in political terms, and about the idea that this is a political album from Thom Yorke, and if they cite a song that is meant to be the most political, then they cite Harrowdown Hill, because
it's an angle.
It is an angle, and they like to find an angle, which, as you know, is the case. But what can you tell us about Harrowdown Hill then?
It was written during that dark period when the poor man died, but half the words were already written before that started getting absorbed in, if you know what I mean. All the choruses were already there, but for some, I woke up sort of one day and realised, my God, it's about this, and sort of thing. And so things started forming out of that. It happened very naturally. I didn't really think about it, and then I was having a conversation with a close friend of mine who knew something about what was going on, and decided that I shouldn't hide away from the fact that it was about what it was about, and called it Harrow Down Hill, because it represented a particularly dark period in Britain, I think. For me, anyway. For a lot of people, it was a profoundly disturbing thing. The Hutton Inquiry, the whitewash, the smug look on Alistair Campbell's face. Yes, I guess you could say it was briefly political. I was being a little bit political, but at the same time, it's not just about that I absorbed that into it, but if I didn't tell you that, you would never know. If I hadn't called it Harrow Down Hill, you would have never known. But I didn't want to hide away from it, because it felt important that it was that. It felt important that I said I was honest about where it came from, and that it was an honest response to that thing. But the one other way of looking at it is it's like it's a sort of maybe a call to arms, or it's just a groove, or it's something you could dance to in a club or whatever. It's not necessarily any of those things. But to me, the most exciting music I've ever had is when you get all those things mixed up together and you can't tell where one starts and one ends. Like Games Without Frontiers, for example, which is my probably top 5 songs ever. It sounds like nonsense, but there's something else going on, and it's got the best groove ever, and it's all that sort of thing, really, to me. I don't want to apologise for any of it, but also I think it's probably lazy and a little bit just a response to what people think I am or am not, to say this is a political record, because it has a lot of love songs and a lot of very personal songs, and anything that is political on a personal level. And I think Harrow Down Hill is a deeply personal thing, a deeply personal story, and it's a lot of what was going on when I was writing, to me, was a response to powers that seem overwhelming, whether they be forces of nature or other people or the Ministry of Defence or whoever, things that are just out of your control, and you're trying desperately to deny they exist, or at least deal with it or get round it. I was really proud of how the video came together in the end, because all the scripts we had for Harrow Down Hill were all like dark cars draw up, shadowy man gets out, shadow figures looking and I kept saying to Joe White, who did it, well, when I was singing it, I had the poll tax riots in my head. I didn't go to the poll tax riots, but I went to I have been on riots, and I have seen people have their legs broken by police horses in front of my eyes, and I know what this government is capable of, and I try not to put anger directly into songs, but it's there, and it's I wanted it to be something far more like a call to arms, far more like we think the same things at the same time. We don't know what to do about it. The British public knew exactly what was going on. They knew they were being lied to. They know they're being lied to now. They can't quite understand why the motherfucker is still there. He says, getting angry briefly. Sorry, I won't get. They can't understand why the person who was in charge at the time is still there, having deliberately fabricated evidence that took us to a war we didn't want to be in. Why is he still there? Why are we still in this position? Why are we going into another one? All these things, we all think it, we all talk about it in the pub. Nothing happens. And that's what Harrow Down Hill is about to me, much more than Poor Mr. Kelly.
Mm.
Dr. Kelly, sorry.
You're listening to Exposure. It's XFM. We have Thom Yorke in the studio tonight. He's talking about the album The Eraser. He's going to be playing live for us, or rather, he's just played some songs for us, and we'll be playing them to you.
A spectacular contortionist.
Yeah. Amongst many other things. Another selection, I think, of your own musical taste.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. Let's have a look. I think, as this is XFM, you need a bit of Mad Villain and Quasimodo in your life.
Okay.
From the Mad Villain record, I think it is. Is it Mad Villainy? And it's a track called America's Most Blunted. I wonder what that could be about.
And come out to show them. Like open the bruise up and let some of the blues blood come out to show them.
That is Mad Villain, courtesy of Thom Yorke, who's brought that in to play for us tonight. You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM, and you like your rap music, Tom? You like your beats?
I like particularly Madlib. A surfer friend of mine turned him on to, not I can't surf, but a friend of mine who's a surfer who I hang out with sometimes, he turned me on to Madlib, and it was just the nuttiest hip hop. I mean, in terms of the way the way he puts things together, that I've heard since, I don't know, since Public Enemy, really, which probably shows my ignorance, but to me, he uses like really low grade gear, and it's really crazy the way he cuts stuff up. And Mad Villain, I just think he's got the best rhymes, as they say, because he doesn't really. I don't know, it just seems so casual, like completely effortless the way he puts things across. And it's sort of slinky, and he's obviously mad as a brush, and I think that's always good.
Are you the kind of person who, when you're introduced to something that you haven't heard before, you then want to seek out all the other stuff that they've done, or do you not delve that deeply necessarily?
I'm pretty random. I mean, the first thing I heard of Mad Villains was like a live record, which was fantastic, but I bought it by accident. But, what a weird place to start, starting with a live rap album when it comes on, and it's not a particularly big place wherever it is, and he just goes through all his best stuff in 40 minutes. You're just left reeling at the end of it, because you can't tell what's what, you don't know what's track, what is, it all just happens all the way through, no stopping, and then he walks off. It's amazing.
That sounds great. I'd like to hear that. I haven't heard the live one.
I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah, I'll have to seek it out. But we're talking of live. You played a couple of tracks for us earlier on, which we're going to play
link
for everybody else. Yeah, this is the smooth DJ at work.
Yeah.
But before we let you hear those tracks, we're going to take another break. Don't go away.
XFM.
London. It's legal. It's legal. Just go out and do it,
Take off your clothes with John Kennedy.
All you perverted ears get nasty and let the wax drip out when you feeling XFM with infesticons dripping in your brain sack. It's got John Kennedy spinning delicious little dirty bits of vinyl that upset your head. Enjoy it. Pinch your nipples.
Ooh. Exposure. With Vodafone. Whatever you're into, music's better when it's live.
You're listening to Exposure on XFM Scotland, XFM Manchester and XFM London, united through the power of the network for the sake of Thom Yorke. Thom Yorke is my special guest tonight, and earlier on, just about half an hour ago, he recorded 2 songs exclusively for the show, simplistically as well, just a Rhodes piano and or Rhodes keyboard and a couple of microphones, and the results are really great. Were you pleased with how they turned out?
Yeah, it was. I didn't think it was going to work. Now's a good time to find out, I guess.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll play the first track and then have a bit more conversation after this. This is Thom Yorke with Skip Divided. That is Thom Yorke and Skip Divided, recorded here in the studios of XFM just minutes ago. Thom Yorke with a Rhodes keyboard, and also kind of hitting the top of the keyboard.
That's one of my favourite noises.
It works really well. I mean, I had to kind of take a double take when I was looking through the glass to see exactly what you were doing, because it just sounds so great. I mean, almost metronomic, your hand beats.
Thank you.
Yeah. Years of tapping tables from school through to
it goes like this.
It sounds great. Now, is that one of the love songs that you referred to earlier on?
Yeah, kind of. It's a bit messed up for that. It sounds like it's more of a love song than it really is. It's actually a song it's more about the dislocation than anything else to me. When I sing it, I have this, I always have the image of slick black oil.
So that's what you were thinking about when you were performing that?
Yeah, that and sex.
Interesting combination.
Yeah.
And playing live, I mean, obviously, I'd probably be, have my legs torn off if I left the studio tonight without asking you about live Radiohead and what's happening with Radiohead. And obviously,
you should give it a go. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. What, have my legs cut off? I want my legs. They're a nice shape.
Sorry.
And they're quite useful. No, I mean, obviously you've been playing a lot recently. You've been airing lots of new songs. You've been doing various different festivals around the world. Yeah. And you're also kind of in the studio at the same time recording new tracks. Well, obviously not literally at the same time, but you're recording. And so... when can we expect new Radiohead? We've
actually been scheduling, and we're going to go in various places, which I can't tell you. And we're going to be working till the end of the year on it with Nigel, and it's quite exciting actually. I can't really tell you more than that. It'll take as long as it takes, really. It's one thing to have the tunes and they work live. It's another thing to try and to get them across properly live. You know, some will work as they are, some won't. So it'll take a little bit of time, but I promise we won't mess around too much, because if we did, we'll all expire with the energy level, because it's just too bloody long now. So we'll try and get something out next year.
But it's been nice working back with the band after working on the solo album.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So it's nice. It was a nice change to be on your own, calling all the shots, and nice
sleeping
change
around a bit, come back. You know, it's fine.
And I'm going to play the other track you recorded earlier on in the studios of XFM today. This is a track called Analyze, and this is a slightly different version because this is played on the Rhodes as opposed to a piano.
Piano, yeah. Couldn't get the piano up 6 flight of stairs.
Any insights into this song that we should get from you while you're here?
Nope. Sorry.
No, keep it sweet. This is Thom Yorke in session. Thom, thanks so much for coming in. It's been nice to see you again. And this is Thom Yorke, recorded here in the studios of XFM, playing Analyze. Superb. Thom Yorke in session, recorded here in the studios of XFM. That is Analyze, played on the Rhodes, probably as you'll never hear it again. Superb stuff, and Skip Divided sounded amazing as well, and Thom was on fine form. The album, The Eraser, is out now, of course, and Harrowdown Hill, the single, is out this week. And hello to Andy Force, who's got in touch telling us that Mode Selector, one of Thom's selections, musical selections, is 2 people, and he says, great, it is, it sounds great. And I'm pretty chuffed, actually, because I've got a CD's worth of music selected by Thom that he's left with me, of stuff that he was going to choose from to play on the show. I might delve into it each night this week, I think, on the show. What do you think? Did you enjoy Thom? Let us know. john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk, 83XFM 83936 on the text. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with the brand new Exposure Big One after this.